We're live.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is, last time we met, we have lost our secretary, so we're gonna have to nominate a secretary. Nominate someone. Nobody likes to be a bookkeeper? Nobody? I'm already president and chairman of it, so somebody else take a job. Come on, Lee. I nominate Lee. Can I do that? You got time for that? Oh, cleaning lady's here. You got time for that?
Sure, I'll second that.
Lee, do you have time for that? I'm gonna nominate you. He seconds it. Okay,
I'll figure it out.
figure it out. Lee is secretary. Thank you, Lee. Okay, second item on the agenda is the variance for the Tipsaw lot. Chris Coffin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I'm Chris Covenant. I'm here on behalf of Mike and Teresa Spencer. So let me lay the groundwork real quick. They own Lot 4 in Tipsaw Acres subdivision, which you've got this. I'm sorry, Lee. Here's some over here for you. Sat in the wrong side.
excuse me.
So that big area kind of shows where Tipsaw Acres subdivision is, in case you all don't know where it is. And you can see there's 12 lots in there. Some have homes on them, some don't. The second page is more of a close-up, which actually is better to look at this.
Mhm.
I didn't have that with me at the time. So the issue is, in Perry County, our zoning ordinance says that the front setback line is 35 feet. And when this house was constructed, it was discovered that it encroaches, as you can see, by about 1.5-foot-ish.
Well, 4 feet.
Oh,
It's setting at 31 and an inch is what it's setting at.
It's canted a little bit, so half of that, a corner of the house is fine at 35 feet. One corner of the house is at 31 feet. So a couple of things I want to point out. Number one, as I said, there's 12, well, let me get the preliminaries out of the way first. I've got an affidavit here that shows that I mailed notice of this hearing to everybody that's the landowners within the subdivision. So here's one of these
You
for
got a
your
copy?
records.
Thank you, appreciate you.
I also published notice in the paper as was required. Unfortunately, I don't have an affidavit yet back, but this is a copy of the actual notice that was published, and it was published on February 5th. So you can put that in there, and I will file with the auditor, I guess, the affidavit of publication when I get it from the news, which I would hope will be in the next week or so. Third thing, from a procedural perspective, there are 12 lots in this subdivision, and this subdivision has covenants and restrictions. And one of the covenants and restrictions said that the county front lot setback lines were the setback lines, 75 feet. So we actually went around to all the landowners in the subdivision, and they signed a modification of the covenants to allow this lot only to be 30 feet setback instead of 35.
Okay.
That doesn't trump the zoning code, which is why I'm here. But what it does show you is that 11 out of the 12 lots signed on and said that was fine, and so we have recorded, and I have a copy here of the recorded modification, which states in here that with respect to lot number 4 and lot number 4 only, the minimum front yard setback line will be changed to 30 feet. So all the adjoining landowners have agreed to that. Again, that doesn't bind you guys, but I think it's an indicator of where people are. So what we have asked for today is a variance on the front setback line of that lot only from 35 to 30 feet. The home is constructed. Essentially living in it. Yeah. This is Teresa Spencer, by the way, one of the landowners. So they are living in the home. This was not done on purpose. The home was built where the stakes were put. And the landowner certainly did not know that there was any problem with the setback. So what the zoning code says is that whenever you seek a variance or a difference from what the code says, you have to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals. And when you do that, what you have to find is that literal enforcement of the chapter would result in unnecessary hardship with respect to the property, which, since the house was constructed when they figured out the problem, I think that would literally cause a lot of hardship if we had to tear the house down and start over. Unnecessary hardship results because of the unique characteristics of the property. One thing that's unique about this one, I think, is you'll notice the frontage is very small on this property because the frontage is actually only the little part that's on the cul-de-sac. And there's huge side setback lines and all, but the front one was the problem. And I think the way this land's laid out, it needed to be closer to the front because it slopes.
It slopes very quickly as it
To the back. So that was one of the reasons it's closer to the front than it would have otherwise perhaps been. And then number 4, or the third thing you have to find is that the variance observes the spirit of the chapter and produces substantial justice and is not contrary to the public interest. So I think the justice part is pretty clear. Not contrary to the public interest, since the other landowners have already agreed with this and are not here today to complain about it, they obviously think it's okay. It is a 4 foot. It's not we're not talking from 35 feet to 10 feet here. We're talking from 35 feet to 30 feet. So it's a 4 foot intrusion on the front setback line. And for all these reasons, the petitioners are asking that you grant a variance for this lot only from 35 to 30 feet on the front setback. And that's kind of where we are. I'm happy, I know these guys are happy to answer questions if anybody has any.
Yeah, Chris, who hired the survey done?
I don't know. Mr. Casewell, did you all build it?
Yeah, I hired Jason.
Okay, you're the builder,
That's
you're the surveyor. You were hired by
the homeowner.
the homeowner. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
My only concern here, and I'll start right off by saying I don't have any problem with changing the setback to 30
I
feet.
understand.
My concern is doing it the right way.
Sure.
And I am not convinced that a variance is the right way to do it. I think it needs either a map or a language change in the ordinance because the literal enforcement of the chapter would result in an unnecessary hardship with respect to the property. Okay. The Indiana Supreme Court has determined that, and I got citations for this if you need it. And I apologize straight up. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer, but we on the board are stuck in the position
I get it.
of having to do some of this stuff. The Indiana Supreme Court has found that a self-inflicted problem is not subject to being considered an economic hardship.
I'm
Okay.
not saying it's an economic hardship. I don't disagree with that.
Okay, and the problem that I see with it is that according to the penalty section of the ordinance, any structure or use that violates this chapter shall be deemed to be a common nuisance, and the owner of the structure or land shall be liable for maintaining common nuisance, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So it puts the burden on the owner. And then if you look at vicarious liability and the ways that it's applied that I've found, I'm not sure. You got to convince me that legally the homeowner is not responsible for this.
I
Okay?
don't understand why I have to convince you of that. I mean, the owner is clearly responsible for this.
The owner what?
The owner is responsible for this. That's their house. But
Okay.
the only way to fix the problem, besides tearing the house down and starting over, is to ask you to have a variance from the zoning code. We can't rezone the property because that zoning front setback applies in this zoning district. It's the zoning district that applies here.
Sure.
I don't know that changing is gonna help.
Didn't they, the Highland subdivision, the county adjusted it to 30-foot setback.
Yeah, they did.
And that was not done, in my opinion, the proper way, because all they did was sign the plat. They did not file a variance.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with that one.
They
so I
did
don't know
not
how that
perform
worked.
any of this here to ask for it. That surveying company, Bernard Lockmuir, come in with a plat with a line that said 30-foot front yard setback and a covenant restriction that said 30 foot, and the commissioner just signed off on it and said it was good. And that's how that subdivision got reduced to 30.
That certainly wasn't right either.
So
Well, I believe this is right. I think this is the
As far
only
as
appropriate way
the
to do it.
variance, we deal with variances in Vandenberg, Posey, and Ward constantly every week of asking for, setbacks to be changed to what somebody's trying to fit on lot because they didn't have enough room. So, I mean, those three counties, we deal with them repeatedly.
Okay, I'm still hung up on the Supreme Court holding that, Supreme Court of Indiana. In addition, it has been held that self-created hardship does not justify a variance. And the wording in the ordinance says that you must have an unnecessary hardship. It doesn't say economic. You're right, Chris. It does not say economic, but let's face it, that is the hardship here.
I don't believe that case is applicable, and I haven't even read it, but there have been dozens of these types of variances granted throughout Indiana for these kinds of things. It's not possible that she can't have a remedy for this. That's what a variance is for. So it is the fact that if, before they built the house, if they had come here and asked you for a variance, it would have been okay, but because the house is already built, now she can't get one? That doesn't make any sense.
What are you suggesting
I mean,
that? the
When do you get a
alternative-
variance
Yeah,
if you can't get it for this?
I'm
reason?
suggesting that they get an amendment to the ordinance.
for the entire county.
It would have to be for the whole county.
No, it doesn't have to be for the whole county. It can
Because
be
the
for
entire
one piece
setback-
of property.
You can't do that.
That's what a variance is for one particular property.
Right.
That's what a variance is for.
Yeah, but it only applies to this and it won't apply to everybody else.
Right.
If you
I'm
put
not
it in the ordinance,
Doubting your, I was
everybody
just
else
asking what your
applies to that.
secondary would be. What's your
This
solution?
would be just.
No, I agree that relief is available, but I believe that the relief is through modifying the ordinance to assign a 30-foot setback to that one piece of property. And that can be done.
I don't believe that's the proper way to do it. I mean, the
we have
ordinance
the
is
county
meant to
attorney
apply
here?
to, pardon me?
Do we have the county attorney here?
No, but I actually have contacted him previously to ask him if this was in our jurisdiction, and he emailed me back that we were correct to proceed.
Well, I'm sure that he didn't consider this argument, though.
It's not a valid argument, though. That's why he probably didn't consider it. I mean, these are not unusual, and in order to change the ordinance, we'd have to change, I don't know if this is R1 or C1, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. We would have to change the setback for the entire residential one classification, which is not.
Here is where our attorney.
Otherwise,
responds
it's
to it, that we could
selective-
approve
it's
it.
selective
That was just the
zoning.
email I printed for you. No, if anybody asked if we had the rights to do it. That's where I had emailed our attorney to confirm our jurisdiction to do so. Proceed.
And his answer is, yeah.
So in layman's terms, just sitting here being a average Joe, the variance is basically stating this is an exception to the ordinance.
That's what a variance is. A
So-
variance is an exception to the zoning ordinance, which calls for a 35-foot setback. We are asking for an exception to that 35-foot setback.
So that's all this is, it's just
I
a
mean-
one-time exception, where if
One-time
you would change
exception,
the
Which
ordinance,
would not cause hardship to others.
it would be
Not-
changing the whole thing,
That's right.
so.
I actually drove out there today too. I don't know, these are kind of overhead surveys. There's a photo kind of, that way you can kind of see how it's set.
Well,
Just-
I understand
just
what
so
you're
we
saying.
had- Yeah, I was trying to gather all our information so we knew what we were doing.
How many of these variances have been granted in the county?
I have no idea.
I did research whenever I looked at it, and it was zero.
Zero.
The city has several. The
Mhm.
city has done this several times, and I read many of them where you have a 5-foot side yard, and they wanted 2 to build a house, or something of that sort.
I
And it
would-
just passes and it fits the variance to the
I've done
block and
them.
block.
I've done them
No
in the city.
situation.
I have not done them.
In my opinion, this is just my opinion, the reason the county doesn't have any is because nobody ever checks it.
Well, that's accurate. I mean,
Yeah.
You don't have anybody, and this was found by accident.
No,
I blame.
believe me, I've run into
100%.
this before.
you know how many times this Board of Zoning Appeals has met since you've been on it? Probably
But
I think this is the
You know,
third.
Three. I'm sure you've experienced, if you drive down some of the, say, back roads, you know there's structures setting closer, and the 30 foot is from the right of way, not
Mhm.
the edge of the pavement. So, first of all, you ask Perry County Garage, that has a little book that can't validate where they got the right of ways from, but has a little book that says this road has, 25 on each side, then you measure 30 from there. And I've seen several garages on the little roads that I've worked on, that they set 10 foot off of the edge of the gravel.
Oh, I live out around Rome, believe me.
So,
I know.
it just,
It's like a-
and probably how many of those even have building permits to start with?
All mine. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to do a bunch more reading before we have another one of these. But like I said, I don't have a problem with the setback here. And I certainly, if everybody else is convinced that this is the way to go about it, I'm not gonna play dog in the manger. But,
I mean,
sure not the way I read it.
Yeah, I try to do my due diligence, though. I did contact our attorney just to confirm we do have jurisdiction to do it. I did do that, and that's why I provided that. So we did it, because we don't know for sure. We're just on board. So I did contact our attorney first.
If you
Okay.
don't have any other questions, I'll sit down and let's take whatever action you are going to take.
I mean, do you have any other statements? Do you have any other questions?
No, I believe the variance is the way to go. I worked road construction for years. I've seen bridges built in the wrong place. And you don't tear out the bridge to make it where it says it is. You adjust the situation. And I can see, with all the landowners adjoining, there's no problem. And my gosh, we're in the country. It's, if you're gonna have problems, it's gonna be in the city, not out in the country. So I'm in favor of the variance.
Okay, so I'm just gonna motion to approve what they've asked us to do for the variance.
I'll make a motion to approve a variance for lot 4 at Tipsaw Acres. And lot 4 only.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're good. Approved.
I'll prepare an order. I had one prepared, but I found a typo in it, so. Don, can you give me the side of that case, please?
Say what?
Can you give me the site of that case, please?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you have all of this if you want.
I don't take your stuff.
Yeah, I don't. Let me see. I gotta find yours. Yeah, and if you come up with something that,
Yeah, I'll email
if there's a reason, let me know, okay? Here you go. And this is from
What did you do, Secretary?
Indiana Law Journal.
What did you do, Secretary?
Here you have.
I'm trying to write some of this down.
Citation if you want. But here's where it says, however, economic loss resulting from costs other than blah, 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 does not produce unnecessary hardship for variance purposes. In addition, it has been held that self-created hardship does not justify variance. Also, whether variance shall be granted cannot be blah, 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 blah. And the citation on that is this one right here. Like I said, you can take that.
Okay.
There's 2 citations there.
Sure you don't mind.
Yeah, I got it at home.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then I motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
Second.
Adjourn.